So with around $450 to my name and $30 worth of trail mix, I decided that I want to take a train across Canada. Why? Why would I try and do something where I'm so obviously unprepared? Well, I actually did a great video about it, and if you're interested, I'd really would hope that you would go and check it out because I put a lot of work into it and I think that it turned out fantastic. So, thank you. Uh, Anyways, I still wasn't totally convinced that this was going to happen. My friends and I were sitting at Denny's having one last little sort of hangout session as we do. I wasn't particularly hungry, but I drank a coffee, and my friend bought me a Grand Sandwich because he promised that he would buy me something while we were there. We drove to the Via Rail station. It took us a little while to find the place because none of us had ever actually been there, but when we got there, we were all sort of taking in that nighttime train aesthetic, and to me it was all very surreal. I was still only barely coming to grips with the fact that I was doing this thing. I had never been on a train before. I had never traveled so far alone before, and here I was doing it. I was just gonna see what was gonna happen, see where I decided that I wanted to go, get off from time to time, do some things. I had always heard that the trains are usually pretty late, but I wanted to give it the benefit of the doubt, and we decided to show up half an hour early. The train was supposed to leave at 12:30 at night, so we got there at midnight. Now it was 1 o'clock, and the boys were getting kind of tired, so they went home. We said our goodbyes, they went home, and I got to stay there and really take in what was happening. I got to come to grips a little bit better with everything, and then and now it was 2:30 and the train still hadn't come. There were lots and lots and lots of freight trains that were coming through the area, and every time we would see them coming and just see the lights, and you think, oh, maybe that's the one, and it wasn't it. And eventually the train station staff come out and ask all the people who were traveling economy to move about 50 meters down the line. So we did. Didn't really know where to stop, so we all kind of decided where 50 meters was, and eventually the train came, and I was incredibly excited. As the train came to a stop, I was still in a state of disbelief. I had never been on a train before, and here it was. And the attendant got off, and she put down some stairs, and some people got off to smoke. And then she comes out and she asks who's in groups, who's in pairs, and she gave priority to those people traveling together, and eventually came down to the single people, and took a little while to find space for everybody. She apologized to me because it was taking so long to find me a spot, and eventually she explained there's just a couple of little old Asian ladies who just didn't want to give up their four-seater, so we had to, kind of cuddle up, is what she said. So, sleeping knee to knee. I don't really mind sharing my space, but the attendant still did assure me that in the morning they would be getting off and that space would all be mine. So a bit of a win for me, I guess. And then sleeping on the train, that was a whole other animal. I had a hard time staying asleep on the train. Getting to sleep was no problem. The slight swaying of the train and the rustling and occasionally the horn, it just, I don't know, something about it was really calming and relaxing to me, and I had an easy time falling asleep. But just because of the awkward height of the armrest and the window, I had a hard time. I'd lean up against it with my blanket in my hand, and that was all right, but I'd wake up in the morning with my hand just numb. It was painfully numb even, and I have to use my other hand to kind of move it to get circulation back. And Yeah, that was really, really unpleasant. But, you know, I was having fun. Eventually, I stayed awake, and it was really early in the morning. I took a couple of pictures, and I just kind of took everything in still because, again, I hadn't done this before. As the sun came up, I noticed some people moving up and down the train, and I figured that I would go and see what's going on. And I made my way down. There's a little cute sort of cafe park kind of car, and so I brought my mug and I brought some instant coffee, and I got some hot water, made some instant coffee, and I mean, instant coffee's not the best, but I wasn't paying for it. I mean, I already had paid for it, so may as well use it, right? And it was better than nothing. And I talked to another guy, and he was telling me that he was also doing basically the same thing, but he seemed a little bit more prepared than I was. I was not prepared. Just I didn't have any money. I didn't have anything really, other than my trail mix and my instant noodles and that one Grand Slam, which. So I went back to my seat, and I actually ate the Grand Slam, which I could have probably brought it to the kitchen and had them heat it up for me, but I didn't really want to do that. I just sort of sat down and I ate that Grand Slam, which cold, and it stuck a lot on the way down, and it was not very pleasant, but kept me eating, and I wasn't eating trail mix yet, so that was a bonus. The whole train ride through British Columbia is just so beautiful. There's just so much stuff that you don't get to see from the road, and the train goes much on its own path, so there's just so much stuff that I never had a chance to see before that I was seeing, and I really just enjoyed looking out the window and seeing all these things. And occasionally there would be a landmark that would come up, and the train and the train attendants would come out, and they would run down the aisles, and they would tell everybody, "Hey, check it out over here. There's a thing. There's a waterfall. There's a thing." And everybody get their cameras and push up against the glass and try to get a good picture. I didn't have any luck with that, though. I just kind of took pictures of whatever I thought was cool at the time. It was around this time that I decided that I wanted to take a selfie every single day of this trip. And the first one I thought turned out really well. And as the series goes on, I'll put in each day when there was a selfie that happened and try to make a point of it. And then we got into Alberta, and we got to Jasper, and we had about an hour to get off the train and do our thing. I had forgotten my toothpaste and toothbrush and my floss, so I had to go find a shop and buy some oral hygiene products. And I went and I did that, and I bought my oral hygiene products. And then I just walked through the town a little bit, and I saw a bank, so I figured I'd go and pull out some money just in case I wanted to buy anything on the train. And I did that, and I walked around a little more, and I guess I got a little bit too far into my head because I looked at my clock eventually, and I only had about 15 minutes to get back to the train before it left. So I ran. I had to run, and there's kind of like a road that connects to the highway, and I couldn't really run across that, but I tried my darndest. And I made it to the train station just in time for them to let us out onto the platform to get to the train. And I got this short clip walking up to the train. And again, that sort of feeling of surrealism was just unlike anything. I was feeling like, wow, this is going to be a cool trip. And I'm going to do some awesome stuff. And it's going to be so much fun. And then the train takes off, and it's going along, and we're seeing a lot more cool stuff. And I tried taking a little picture of Jasper on the way out, but it wasn't what I could have taken. And we got to see more mountains and Mount Robson and lots of stuff. And the train attendants would come through and tell us, "Hey, look, that's Mount Robson. That's whatever. This is that. And it was all nice, and it was all really pleasant. And from there, we were just on our way to Edmonton, and I was really excited because I hadn't been to Edmonton in a long time, ever since I was just a little kid, and that was very, very exciting. So after you get out of the Rockies, you get into the prairies, and you have to get through all that to get to Edmonton, and that was all super exciting to see. It was I forgot how boring it can be looking at nothing but flatness for so long. I tried making the best of it, though, and I really just soaked everything in, and I just enjoyed being on the train overall. Those things were old. I remember looking at everything and wondering just how old is all this stuff. What happened when I got to Edmonton, I'm going to leave for the next video, because a lot did go on, and I think that's enough for this video anyways. So I hope that this style of storytelling is entertaining again, and if you do wonder why I decided to go on this journey when I was so unprepared, please watch the previous video. I put a lot of work into it, and I think it turned out really well. And if you made it this far, thank you. And please tune in next time. Awesome.